Let's make some custom items in Minecraft. This is the second video of the fabric modding series. If you haven't seen my first one where we set up this project, downloaded IntelliJ, and got all the configurations done, I highly recommend that you check that one out first before watching this one. So to get right into it, the first thing that we're going to want to do is create a custom item class. So in our example mod folder right here, you see we have GreatBugs example mod. Let's right click, new, package, and let's just call it item. And then inside item is where we're going to have our mod item class. So let's hit new Java class, and we're going to call it ModItems. If you set up a GitHub repository, just click add. If not, you won't get that prompt. It's completely fine. And now this is our ModItems class right here. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to make a method to call this class so that everything here can get initialized. So inside the ModItems block, let's come down here, and we're going to create a method called public static void. And I'm going to call it register mod items. So I just defaulted it to naming it register and then whatever it is that we're registering. In this case, it's going to be a mod item. Now you just add some curly braces, and this is our method. You could leave it empty, but I don't like to, and it's not really a good convention to just leave it empty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call example mod.logger.info, and you could see that this right here is red. What you can do is you can hover over this and hit import class. And what that's going to do is going to import the proper class that we need to be using this identifier right here. So .info, what I'm going to do is we're going to type out a string, and it's going to say registering mod items. I don't even need to type it out. I can just hit tab 4 plus example mod.modId. And there, we just made a little call to our logger. Now, if at any point you're getting lost in this and you don't know if your code's right or you're running into errors, I have all the code in the description below. You can download it and look at it for yourself. So keep that in mind. It's there for you in case you need it. But now we can go back to the example mod class and call this function. So let's go back to example mod. Inside the onInitialize function, we can come in here and we're just going to say ModItems dot. And you can see the suggestion right here. It pops up. You can just hit tab and it auto completes. And you can see that it's from net.greatbugs.examplemod.item. So it's going to import that class once we hit tab. There we go. Does the auto import for us. And we've called it. And now we've added it to the onInitialize function. Now we can go back to the ModItems class here. And we're going to create a helper function that's going to make it a lot easier to register the items for us so that we don't have to retype all this code over and over again. Whenever we want to create a new item, we're just going to call our helper function, and that's going to register it for us. So inside the ModItems class, just up here, and we're going to create a private static item. And notice I'm making it private because it's a helper function. And see right here, item, we're going to import it from net.minecraft.item. Hit tab. That's going to import the proper statement for us. And now we're going to call this method the register item method. And its parameters are going to be a string that we're going to call name, and then another parameter of type item that we're going to call item. So you can see that's the type is string and the variable name is name. The type is item, variable name item. Add a couple of curly braces. Now inside the helper function, we're going to return registry. And now pay attention here. This is important. You're going to want to import the one from net.minecraft.registry, not from Java RMI registry. So hover over this one right here and just hit tab to autocomplete, and it's going to import the proper statement at the top. Make sure it imported this one right here and not the other one. Now type in .register, and then inside here type in registries, and you could see from net.minecraft.registry, just hit tab .item, all caps, and you can see it's right here. Just hit tab, autocomplete, then comma, and now we need an identifier. This is going to be the unique identifier for our modded item. So type in identifier, and you can see it already automatically suggests this one right here. It's from net.minecraft.util. Just hit tab to autocomplete, and it's going to import this for us. Make sure it imports the proper statement at the top. And now we need to put in our namespace, but that's already defined, which is just our mod ID in this case, which is example mod.modID. Tab to autocomplete, comma, and then pass in the name parameter right here. And as you can see, as it's already suggesting, come outside of the first parentheses and add a comma and type in item, where we're going to pass our item parameter. And make sure to finish it off with a semicolon. And now we have our register item helper method all done right here. Now we can actually create our very first custom item. So just up here, come to the top and type in public static final item, because it's of type item. And we're going to call it raw underscore moonstone underscore ore. And then we're going to say this is equal to our register item method that we just created. So now we're going to give it a name string parameter, come in here, add some quotes, and we're going to call it raw underscore moonstone underscore ore, all lowercase, all one word, comma. And this is a new item, and a new item needs new item dot settings. And you can see it's from net.minecraft.item. And then at the very end, just finish with a semicolon. Now, theoretically, our custom item is already inside of the game. We just created it, we registered it, but it doesn't have a texture and it doesn't have a name yet. But in theory, it is inside of the game right now. Now, notice right here that this is all lowercase and all one word, no spaces. This is because this right here has the same restrictions as our mod ID has. It's very important that this is all lowercase and has no spaces. If you do have multiple words in it, you can just separate them with an underscore like this, but do not add spaces to this. Now, this custom item is not already added to a creative mode tab. So when we open up the creative mode menu, we're not going to be able to find our item in it, but we can fix that very easily just down here. So come down here, we're going to do it inside of our register mod items method. And what we're going to say is item group events. You can see right here, just tab to complete. It's going to import the statement at the top. Dot modify entries event. You can see it's right here. Just hit tab to autocomplete. Now we're going to pass in the key. So this is going to be the tab that it's listed under. We're going to call it item groups. Make sure it's item groups with an S right here. And in this case, we're going to put it under the ingredients tab. So ingredients, you can see just tab to complete. And after the closing parentheses right here, we're going to call the register method. And then in here, we're going to type out entries. And you can see it's suggesting this weird little thing. Just do an arrow and it'll just kind of auto-complete it for you. Entries and then an arrow. Then add an opening curly bracket and you can see it adds a pair. And inside here is where we're going to add our new item to the ingredients list. So to do that, we're just going to say entries.add. And inside here, we're just going to type in raw moonstone ore, which you could see it pops up right there. Just tab to autocomplete and then a semicolon. And then at the very bottom, finish with a semicolon also. And now the raw moonstone ore has successfully been added to the ingredients item group. So if we open up the creative menu, we're going to find our new item in the ingredients tab. But in this case, our raw moonstone ore still doesn't have a name yet. It would be named item.examplemod.raw moonstone ore. It also wouldn't have a texture. It would still be one of those black and violet blocks. And of course, that is not what we want. We want to add a texture to it, our own texture. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Now to do this, we're going to come over to the resources and assets folder. It's very important that from this point on, every file and directory that we create is going to be named exactly as is. If you make any typos, it's going to create issues. So inside the resources, assets, example mod or your mod ID folder, you're going to right click and hit new directory, and we're going to call it the Lang, L-A-N-G directory. Now, in example mod, again, in the same directory, hit new directory, and we're going to call it models. And then the last one we're going to create is in the same example mod, new directory, textures. Now, inside of the models directory, we're going to right click new and create a new directory called item. And then the same thing goes for the textures directory, new directory, and just call it item. Now, up here in the Lang folder, this is where our translations are going to go. We don't want our item to be called item.examplemod.moonstone underscore ore. We want to give it our own name. So what we're going to do is take our key, our translation key for this custom item that we've made, and we're going to translate it in a custom file over here in Lang. So if we come over here to Lang, we're going to right click and hit new file, and we're going to call it en_us.json. Boom, just hit add if you set up the GitHub directory or repository. If not, then that's completely fine. And this is going to be basically the default language that Minecraft starts out in. It's English US. Now, how this looks is pretty straightforward. We're just going to do some curly braces, and inside the curly braces, we're going to want to add a string, and we're going to call it item.examplemod.raw_moonstone_ore. And then outside of the quotation marks, we're going to do a colon, and then inside of another quotation mark, we're just going to write raw moonstone ore in a proper manner that we're going to actually want to see it. Now, this is the key, the translation key right here. You can see that it's an item, in example mod, that's our mod ID, and the item's name is raw_moonstone_ore, where we named that up here in mod items. You could see that's the name that we gave it right here. And then on the other side of the semicolon, we could see that we just have raw moonstone ore. This is the name that we are translating it to. So in game, this is going to be the name of our item instead of this big long string right here. Now we can move over to the models item directory right here and right click, hit new file. And this is going to be called raw_moonstone_ore.json. Hit enter to create it. Now I'm going to type this out and then I'll explain what it means after. If you've never done this before, you're probably going to be like, what the hell am I looking at right now? But once you get used to the format, you can start seeing how it makes sense, and I'll explain afterwards. So right here, we're going to add the curly braces and we're going to add a parent. And then in the parent, we're going to add Minecraft:item/generated, comma. And then we're going to add textures. And this is actually going to be a textures object. So we're going to do more curly braces right here. And this textures object is going to be layer 0. And layer 0 is going to be example mod:item/raw_moonstone_ore. So an item model JSON file basically determines how an item is rendered and also what its texture is. So if we come up to here to parent, what this basically is specifying is that our custom item is going to be rendered just like any other item in Minecraft is rendered, which is basically like a 2D texture protruded out into a third dimension. Like if you have a diamond on the floor, it's like a 2D image, but also it's protruded into a third dimension. So that's what this does, is it specifies it's rendered like a regular old Minecraft item. And then the textures down here this is pointing to the texture that we want our item to be. So you could see is right here, example mod, textures, item, and what this is basically going to be doing is searching for a raw_moonstone_ore.png file that is in this textures item folder. And that PNG file is going to be the texture that we want applied to our modded item. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these textures to the item folder down here right now. You can find these links in the description below, but I'm just going to add the raw moonstone ore for now, and then hold control so that it copies it to the folder. I don't want to actually move it. I want to copy it here. Hit OK. And now we can see raw moonstone ore is right here. That's the texture that we have created for it. And if you want to see how to create textures and how I made this texture, I can show you that in a different video, but that's a different process. Because I know if I was watching this, I would want to know how the heck I created this texture. That seems fun. I can do that. If you want to see a video, I will make one. But yeah, if we come over here, that right here is exactly what this is pointing to. Raw moonstone ore is pointing to this folder, which is this texture. So what we've done is we have named the item, we've translated it, we added the textures in the item.json file. We also described how it's going to be rendered, just like a regular old Minecraft item. We added the .png for the item in the texture folder. So we added the texture, and then we also have registered the item in the registries in our mod items class. And then on top of that, we added the item to an item group, in this case, the ingredients item group. So the ingredients tab in creative mode. And we are good to go in game and see this item right now. But first, you might be thinking, this is a lot of work just to add one item to the game, and it is. But to create a second item going on, we don't need to create this entire mod items class now. We made helper functions, we did all the good stuff. So to create a new item, all we need to do is just create a new item here, then add it to an item group, and then create a JSON file for it, translate it, add its textures, and we're done. So adding a second item is going to be significantly easier than it was to add this first item. But if we come up top to the Minecraft client and hit the little run button, we'll see in a second that we have our custom modded item in game. There we go. We can see the game opened up. And if you're running into any issues at this point, then it probably means that you either didn't watch the setup video before this one where we set up everything, got all the configurations done. I would advise checking that out first if you didn't and are having issues. If not, then you can download this project. It is in my GitHub repository. You could see all the code for yourself and figure out where your issues are. All right, as you can see, the game's loaded up. Let's go full screen real quick. And when you open up the creative menu and scroll down to the ingredients tab where we added it, let's see. Yep, here we have it. This is the item that we just added. How awesome is that? So this is our new custom item that we just added. And let's go see how we're going to add a second item to the game now after having this first one. So we're back in IntelliJ. Let's go to the ModItems class, and to add the second item, let's just come over here right below our raw moonstone ore, and let's just add public static final item. And in this case, it's going to be moonstone underscore ingot. And we're just going to say equals to register mod items. You can see that it pops up. We just hit tab, and the name we're going to give it is moonstone underscore ingot, comma, and this is a new item that has new item settings. Tab to complete that. So now our second item is in the game. We just need to add it to the creative tab. So if we come down here and say entries.add and tab, it already knows what I'm going to say, moonstone underscore ingot. Now we have added it to the creative ingredients menu. Now let's come over here, and we just need to add the translation for it. All we need to do is basically just copy paste this down here, but then do a couple changes. We're just going to change this right here to moonstone underscore ingot and change the name that we're translating it to moonstone ingot. So you could see this is pretty much a very easy process. All we're doing is the same exact thing that we did for the first one, but just changing the name to the other item that we're registering now instead. Now with the translation done, we just need to give it an item JSON file, a model item JSON file. So let's just come over here. Here's a little trick. Since we already typed out the first one and we know it's going to be rendered the same way, just with a different texture, we can grab this file right here and hold Control to copy it into the same folder. And now we're just going to rename it moonstone underscore ingot. And you can see that's just creating a new file in this same folder. It has all the same contents of it, but it's called moonstone underscore ingot. And what we want to do is just change the item name right here to moonstone underscore ingot. And this is going to be the texture that it searches for in the textures item folder. And it's going to search for moonstone underscore ingot.png. And now we just need to add that texture to the textures item folder. It's going to be a PNG. You can find all the files in the description. But what I'm going to do is hold Control and then drag it into items right here. Okay, add. And now we have our second item in the game. We can load up Minecraft and see it. So let's just hit run. All right, so we've got the game loaded up. Let's just go into our example world and see our second item. So we're in game. Let's see. Let's go to the ingredients tab. Let's see if we have our new item, and boom, there it is, moonstone ingot. So now we have the moonstone ore and the moonstone ingot. All we need is moonstone blocks now. But we're going to be doing that in the next video. If you enjoyed this one and actually learned something, then you're definitely going to learn something from the next video. I hope to see you there, and thank you all for watching. Peace out.